Welcome back to the Experience Podcast. We've got another great episode filled with awesome content. I know you guys are going to love today. I got a guy that's going to give it to you pretty much as straight as you need to get it. Someone I look up to as far as mindset and the way you need to be able to do things. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Steve Krebs, and he's going to tell you guys a little bit about himself. Steve, welcome to the Experience.
Amir, what's up, brother? Thanks for having me on. What's up, everybody? First off, congrats to Amir for his purple belt in BJJ. I am a purple belt as well, and I know what it takes to actually earn that rank. It's a lot of work, a lot of dedication and commitment, so hats off to you, my friend. What's up, guys? So I'm Coach Steve Krebs. I'm a coach, consultant, a creator, and I've been head coach inside of the Wake Up Warrior movement for the last 18 months. Been on my own as well, creating CoachSteve.com, and I lead entrepreneurial men to have it all in all aspects of their life. So inside of their body being balanced in business, we drive hard towards all those things by eradicating bullshit from our lives, stop fucking lying, and actually commit to doing the work on a consistent basis every day. I started out originally from upstate New York. I grew up there. My father owned his own business. I followed in his footsteps. I opened gyms, sold those gyms, and then got into coaching, consulting in the business industry, and then I moved on from that niche straight into just working with high-level producers, male entrepreneurs inside of Wake Up Warrior and my own coaching.
That's the lowdown of what Steve Krebs is all about, guys. But we're going to get into the questions, and my first question is, hey, so, being that you work with high-level entrepreneurs and business coaches and you are a business coach, what would you tell somebody that is starting out trying to get their act together and trying to go towards their goal as far as creating a new business?
So the reality is this, is I've opened multiple businesses. Amir's a business owner. That's why he's running the podcast. At the end of the day, if you don't set your targets, I don't even call them goals, I call them targets, because our aim, no pun intended, is to hit the target. Not to set broad, generalized goals, because there's just too much of that bullshit in the marketplace. So you have to be damn sure you're ready and willing to pay the piper to make the business work. All right, most people get into business and they almost treat it like a hobby, and then it ends up being a job for them. They don't actually own a business. It's this breakdown that I used to teach, which is like, do you have a puppy or a baby? And if you compare your business to having a puppy or a baby, well, a puppy's never going to wipe its own ass. So I want you guys to look at the idea that you have for your business. Number one, you have to look and make sure that it makes sense. Number two, you have to make sure that there's actually a market for it. And number three, you have to make damn sure that you're passionate and purposeful about it, or else when the shit goes sideways, which it will inside a business, you will stop trying. You will stop pushing, and you'll end up quitting. So at the end of the day, step one in opening a business or getting started is just making sure it's what you really feel called to do. There's a million things you can do. But if you get overwhelmed with the possibilities, which happens 9 times out of 10 with human beings, the way I compare it is if you're in a fight, right, you're in the cage, and you start worrying about what your opponent is going to do and all the possible things that you can do, what happens to fighters is that they freeze. And they get lit up, they get beat up, they lose the fight because they were more worried about what might happen or the possibilities of what could happen rather than what the fuck they were actually going to do. So you have to be very clear on what you want and what you're willing to do. The next piece of this is actually hiring a coach or a consultant, somebody that's been there. Now, this is not just to serve my own purpose. I've done this multiple times in my life and invested hundreds of thousands of dollars inside of coaching and consulting because I always wanted to jump to the front of the line. I know for a fact I'm not going to figure this out on my own faster than I could pay someone to give me a clear roadmap that they've already proven. So there's multiple steps involved inside of this game, and starting your own business. Starting the business isn't the hardest part, really. But the problem is keeping it open. I think there's a figure that in the first year, 90% of businesses go out of business, right? First-year businesses, they just don't make it.
Yeah. Definitely a good breakdown, of, it's definitely not easy. And what I would say is being persistent is probably the toughest thing. What would be my next question? Hey, what do you think over the years has kept you focused on not just being successful, but going to the next level of success, and now obviously to where you are and teaching other people how to generate success in their life?
Well, the root of the word success, right, is succession. It means what's next. And the problem is that people in general, guys in general, think there's a finish line. Right? There is no finish line. Inside of success, it's a moving target. It's the horizon. You get to the horizon moves forward. So my life, I have dedicated my life to growth and expansion across the board. In my own physicality, in my spirituality, in my relationship, in my business. And without the other three things, the business means nothing. The problem that I see is that people become very one-dimensional, and they start just worrying about their business, or two-dimensional. They're worried about their business and their relationship, and they forget other areas. And through the cascade effect of consequences, which means one area will always affect the other, whether good or bad, positive or negative. So the problem that I see is that most people don't commit themselves to growth and expansion across the board. That doesn't mean that we don't have problems. That doesn't mean there isn't resistance or obstacles that hop into our way. That's part of life. The real question you guys got to ask yourselves, are you willing to do what's required to get what you said you wanted? Period. I don't teach success. I teach tools. I don't save people. I lead people and guide people. So there's all these ideas that, and one thing that we say inside of Warrior, inside of my coaching as well, is be a leader, not a savior. Like, there is no way to save another human being. You can only save yourself. So as a leader in your business, you can't worry about going and saving the world. You have to take care of your damn self, because your life is the only one that you can control. Right, so I would say that, people go like, oh, Coach Steve, you're a life coach. That's not what I am. Right? I'm a high accountability, smash mouth, full contact coach. And if you look at any successful athlete, fighter, Olympian, what do they all have? They have coaches.
Yeah.
So the problem is that most people go through this experience inside a business and they say, well, I can't afford that. Well, the question is, how do you look at that as a cost and not an investment? Because an investment actually pays dividends. A cost is just money going out the door. And if you look at things like this as a cost, or anything for that matter that's going to grow your business and expand your life, if you look at it as a cost, you are going to miss the opportunity. And the question that I ask everyone that I coach is, okay, if you look at this as a cost, what's actually the lost opportunity cost? What is the cost if you don't actually do the things or invest in the things with your time and your money, your watch and your wallet? What's going to happen? Well, nothing. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to get caught in a karmic loop. You're going to be chasing your own tail and only make so much money. Because guess what? At the end of the day, that's how we measure success. Is how much money is in your bank account, and then we can talk about the other aspects of success for me, which are you on fire inside of your relationship with your wife? Is your body on point? And are you connected spiritually to whatever you deem as that, God, universe, whatever the hell you call it? So I don't know if that answers your question, but to me, success is defined by the person, not by society.
Yeah, that answers so many of the questions that I had, but it touches on so many aspects that go beyond some of the questions, which is why, again, I wanted to have you on here, because this is the kind of stuff people need to hear. This is the kind of stuff that is what, like you said, leads to success. You're not teaching success, you're leading them to learn how to be successful, giving them the tools to be that. So I'm going to ask a different question. When do you think, or what do you think triggered this change in the way you feel or your mindset? What do you think triggered this version of Steve?
It's a simple answer to that. It really is. And at the end of the day, I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by people that love me to death, right? My family members. My grandmother is one of the most stubborn, hardworking, dedicated human beings on the planet. My father is the same way. So at the end of the day, I learned what commitment means by watching the people that I love. Now, it doesn't mean that they didn't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that I haven't made mistakes. I make mistakes every day. And anybody that creates this persona that they're infallible and they don't make mistakes is full of shit. And immediately, I can't even deal with that human being because they're portraying themselves as something they're not, so they're out of integrity. And people that are out of integrity teach others how to have no integrity. So to me, the mindset shift comes from going like this. Okay, I've got pretty good results. How can I do more? How can I create more? How can I make more of an impact on myself, my family, and then the world, right? And that's the order that I focus on things. Now, some may say that's selfish, but I say it's self-interested. And being self-interested is the only way you're actually going to grow and expand and be able to lead your family and your followers and your team and your clients or anything, regardless of what you do. Most people have this backwards, and they put other people before themselves. And the problem with that is now you're being a savior again, and when you're a savior, there's only one ending to that story. You'll be crucified by the same people that you're trying to save because you cannot save them. They have to make the choice for themselves, just like I've had to make the choice for myself to strive towards more. There are millions and millions of people in the world that have a whole lot more money than me. That's not how I gauge success, just by that one metric. They may have more money, but is the relationship on fire? Are they doing what they're passionate about? Are they impacting people? Are they connected to God or the universe? Right? So to me, it's not a competition. The only competition is the competition with myself, and that's to get better than I was yesterday. Now, this may seem theoretical to you guys. You may sit back and go, okay, this guy's full of shit. Well, the question is why are you triggered by the truth? Right? And at the end of the day, Amir, this is the breakdown of this. This is the breakdown of how I am committed in my life to live in integrity and truth. And when you cut all the bullshit out of your life, you stop lying to yourself, then you stop lying to other people. And all of a sudden, shit just becomes simple. It's not easy, it's simple. The decisions become more clear. The path becomes more clear because you're doing the work required to actually create clarity. You know, the number one thing that people that I talk to inside of conversations leading up to them working with me, the number one thing they want is clarity. The crazy shit is I can't create that for them. They have to create that for themselves. Now, I can ask questions to help them get there, but at the end of the day, you and I both have to take responsibility for our own shit. And until we do that, well, we're going to be stuck in the cosmic loop, chasing our own tail, and feeling like we're stuck, stagnant, or just feeling incomplete inside of life as a man.
That's powerful shit. I love it. Wow. That's good stuff, man. I'm so glad you were able to come on today because the content here is absolute gold. And if people are listening, they should be taking notes and taking action because, you know, that's, you know, one thing that I think you're stressing more than anything is the action taking here. What do you feel, like you said you talk with people, what do you feel is the hardest fight most people deal with that turning point that they need to get to?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest struggle that everyone has is the stories they've created in their own minds. Right, so I have a saying, we have a saying inside of what we do, inside of this, inside of my coaching, inside of work, fuck your stories, right? So if you think about this, every single human being on the planet, their mind is a movie projector. Right, they are like Steven Spielberg all day, every day, creating stories in their mind. The crazy part is the story is always worse than reality. Anxiety, depression, all these things are created by stories in our mind. Worrying about the future, worrying about the past, and it creates this problem. And the problem is that most people are never present. This is why people live on their phones. They're addicted to technology. They're addicted to being falsely connected to other people, and that's social media and all this bullshit where people don't actually truly connect. They don't look each other in the eye, and they feel lost. The number one thing holding anyone back is their own stories. And the minute you take responsibility and ownership over the story and start questioning the story is when you will own more control over your life. Anxiety is created through lack of control or the feeling that you're out of control. And this is what happens. And then people start making decisions based on the story. They make decisions to eat shit that doesn't support the life that they want, the body they want. They make decisions that don't support the relationship they actually want to create. They go hide, they cheat, they lie, they do shit that isn't in line with what they truly want because at the end of the day, people feel, specifically men, feel unworthy. They feel unworthy to share their truth. They feel unworthy to accept love from a woman that actually gives a shit about them. So it's the slippery slope that we go down as men is that we have a really tough time telling the truth. We have a really tough time sharing our feelings. We have a really tough time communicating with other men. And this is why there's this systematic sedation of men that has taken place since the Industrial Revolution where guys have just gone deeper and deeper inside of suppression and sedation and hiding. And we can talk about this shit all day because it's what I do, and it's a proven fact that if you look at the way that the country is moving, the world is moving, you have more and more situations where these fucking assholes are driving cars into people, shooting up movie theaters, murdering other people because they're completely disconnected from other human beings. And they're so wrapped up in their bullshit stories that they don't see another way out. At the end of the day, if your stories run your life, you are out of control. So, long explanation to teach you guys, you have to sit down and you have to question your stories. And what I mean by stories, it could be like, well, I don't deserve to make more money. That's a story. That's a simple story. And that story is bullshit. But the crazy part is if you believe the story, you will act accordingly. And I have a statement that I want to share with you guys, and then I'll throw it back to Amir. But you are exactly who you believe yourself to be. You are exactly who you believe yourself to be. If you believe yourself to be a very successful, outgoing, caring, loving, honest person, well, guess what? You will take the steps to find your way there. But if you believe the opposite, you will do the exact same steps to find yourself in a really shitty position. I don't know if that breaks down the question, but sometimes I just like to rant a little bit here.
You know what? Even if it doesn't break down the question, Steve, it's powerful things that like, this is what people need to experience. This is what the podcast is all about, is to try to turn on light bulbs in people's heads so they can start to shape their life into what it's supposed to be, and not some TV show or fiction novel made up. It's something, the things that really make them happy, not the superficial shit. Being that you are helping change lives in, I'm on the fitness side of it and trying with the podcast to help people with the mental side, but you're definitely on the more mental side of things. What do you think some of your biggest, I guess, with the legacy you want to leave behind, or your biggest goals that you want to set forth?
Got it. So there's a bunch of things, right? Number one, the idea of legacy, and this is where I get a little fired up, because I feel like that people are so wrapped up in trying to impress other human beings that they forget that their legacy is actually their own family. So number one, my legacy is, right now, it's me and my wife. And then when we have a child, it's my wife and my child, or children. That's my legacy. Business comes in a very like low place on the totem pole when it comes to my legacy. Right? My impact on my family is my legacy. My impact on myself is my legacy. My impact on my clients becomes my legacy, because I help guys step up in all areas and treat their wives better, connect with their children better, run their businesses at a higher level. So at the end of the day, I think people get confused on the topic of legacy in the first place, right? And there's too much ego involved in the game, and it creates this conversation of complete and utter bullshit, because it's all based on ego. Well, I want everybody to know my name. Cool, so does everybody else. But at the end of the day, how are you showing up at home? How are you showing up for yourself? There's too many people out of integrity trying to teach other people how to do shit that they're not actually doing themselves. And the first thing I'm going to tell you guys, like, inside of that conversation is, listen, again, I am not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I'm still trying to figure shit out myself. I just may be a little further down the sidewalk so I can spot the pile of dog shit that you're about to step into. I am the bumpers on the bumper bowling lane. I am not the end-all, be-all savior of human beings or men. That's bullshit, and anybody that tells you that, you should probably run the other way. So I have a lot of targets in my life, but I focus on the next target. I don't set long-term 20-year targets, because who the hell knows what's going to end up happening, Amir? Like, we don't know that. At the end of the day, my target every day when I wake up is number one, win the battle inside of my own mind first. Meaning, I put my old self back in the coffin. I put the old self back in the coffin, meaning the guy that wants to create chaos and cause problems and be a dickhead and be mean, because guess what? I wake up every day, and I have a little bit of anxiety, I have a little bit of craziness going on, and I do the work required in the morning to put myself back in a place of power. So I choose power first every day. So we can talk about the impact that we want to have on the universe, put a dent in the world, all that wonderful shit. But at the end of the day, if I can't positively affect myself in the morning, then everything else goes to shit. So I put myself in power first. The impact I want to create is the impact on myself every morning, and that committed consistency that it takes to do the simple shit required, maybe even boringly consistent, to put myself in a place of power and clarity so I can positively affect myself, my wife, and then my clients. That's kind of the continuum of positive impact that I want to have. Outside of that, then it's a spiderweb effect. If my wife shows up in power, or she's inspired by me putting myself in power, and she chooses to put herself in power, which most of the time she does, then she positively impacts people. And then I go get my clients, and then I positively impact them with the energy and the fire that I bring. And then they choose to put themselves in power. Now they affect all their clients and the people they're in contact with. So at the end of the day, legacy is an idea that shouldn't even enter your mind if you're not doing the work every day for yourself. Like, it just shouldn't, because it gets us caught up in this egomaniacal bullshit that ultimately doesn't matter. I'm not saying you shouldn't think about how you want to impact the world. But you can literally not impact anyone else without taking care of yourself every damn day, early in the morning, first thing. Now, he said something, I just want to correct you. He said that I'm more of a mindset guy, and I strongly disagree with that. Because at the end of the day, we focus on the whole spectrum. And I focus on the whole spectrum because the reality is your body is your fastest pathway to power, Amir, and that's what you do. Inside of PFW, inside of your gym, you guys focus on the body first. But there's a lot of mindset and nutrition and everything included too. So I want you guys to realize that the body is the fastest pathway to power. And what I mean by that is if you don't train your body hard and you don't put the right food inside of it, and that's not saying that I don't drink beer and have some shitty food once in a while because I love life. And to me, having that stuff is very enjoyable, but there has to be a balance. So if your body is the fastest pathway to power, then what you need to do is make sure that you check that shit in the morning. And there's no perfect way to train. To me, it's how do I weaponize my body this morning? It could be a 10-minute workout. It could be going to jiu-jitsu. It could be going for a walk. I don't know. But to me, I have to find the pathway to my voice, my gut, my intuition, and the only way to do that is to train my body. Problem with America and most of the world right now is they don't train their bodies in any capacity. And they eat shitty food. So they're completely disconnected from their intuition. If you are disconnected from yourself, then there is no goddamn way you're going to connect to your loved ones. It's impossible. So if you think about the way we break things down inside of the Warriors way, it's body being balanced in business. One leads to the next. So if you tap into power through your body, you can actually hear the voice, which means spiritually you're connected to yourself, God, the universe. The only way you're going to connect to anyone else is if you're connected to yourself. Then you can finally show up for the people that you love in the correct manner, in full power, in clarity, without being triggered, without being fired up about something maybe your wife said, because you're already showing up in a place of understanding and empathy. Then the last piece is business, right? Making all the money in the world isn't going to matter if all those other areas are a pile of shit. I know a lot of miserable millionaires. So at the end of the day, this is a whole, the program is built around the premise of life in 4 dimensions. 4-dimensional modern men kicking ass, moving towards what they want because they're committed to the daily work. So that is the impact that I desire. The impact on myself first, then my family, then everyone else. Because if we flip-flop it, then guess who gets left out? Ourselves and our families. And that just doesn't make sense to me.
Dude, I love it. And my apologies on the coaching.
Oh, dude, there's no reason to apologize.
No, of course.
It's a great conversation piece. And at the end of the day, listen, there are always going to be a mirror, and the same thing for you. There's always going to be perceptions from the outside looking in of what we do. And it's our job to just make sure that people understand what the truth of it is. I'm sure that you guys deal with this inside of the gym all the time. Right? People perceive you guys as one thing because the word warrior is in the gym name, and you are something completely different, right? I know Martin very well in the TFW movement. You guys are doing an incredible job, and you're connected, and you're doing great things for your community, and you believe in what you guys are doing, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there's no need to apologize at all. You just answered a great question and opened up a little rant can of worms, which actually benefits your listeners.
Absolutely. I can't, again, thank you enough for coming on today because everything, guys, you should favorite this episode because this is one you're going to want to listen to over and over because Steve has got so much great information and knowledge to share. We're going to finish up, and I don't want to keep you too long, but who are 3 people that...
I'm here, brother. Whatever you need.
I appreciate that. Who are 3 people that helped influence you and what you're doing now, Steve?
Got it. So, I've hired multiple mentors in my life. Obviously, at the end of the day, my parents, my grandparents, these are the people that influenced me more than anyone. My family, my brother, and my sisters. These are the people that matter most. These are the people that I was around every day. These are the people that shaped who I am. Outside of that, obviously, there's guys like Sam Backyard, who's one of my first fitness business mentors, who gave me a shot to get on stage and that believed in me when really nobody else did. And then obviously, I'm just going to give you 2. And then one of my best friends and mentors, Garrett J. White, the leader of the Wake Up Warrior movement. Obviously, Garrett's had more impact on me than anyone outside of my immediate family. He's given me, obviously I went through his program, shifted my life considerably, and then I became a coach there. I'm still in association with. I ran all of their training yesterday on the Warrior TV show for the Internal Brotherhood. It's been massive for me. So at the end of the day, I could sit here for another hour with you and talk about all the people that have positively impacted me. but I want to share something with you guys because I feel like at the end of the day, as a leader, if you take responsibility for anybody else's results, you're actually ruining both of your experiences. So I know that those guys that have positively affected me would want me to give them a shout out, but they would want me to say who has impacted me most, and the answer would be me, myself, and I. And that's not a conceited answer. That is, I am the one that chose to invest in working with those guys. I am the one that spent a very, very scary amount of money multiple times in an investment that made my asshole pucker and made me nervous, but I knew I had to do it. So at the end of the day, the right coaches are going to always push the celebration and the victory back onto you because you are the one that is actually committed to doing the work. You are the one that chose to invest in yourself and make this shit happen. The minute we start giving everybody else credit is the minute we actually take that victory away from ourselves. And then momentum can't be developed.
I mean, very about, not shitting where you eat kind of thing and paying respect to the people that led the way for you, and I commend you for that. So, last question is, what are some things that you're working on? What do you got lined up, Steve, and where can people find you?
Sure. I mean, I got all kinds of things cooking. So, obviously, my main coaching site is the most simple URL of all time. It's just CoachSteve.com. So, CoachSteve.com is where I drop content inside of my individual game. Obviously, we're associated with Warrior, so all my guys get access to the Wake Up Warrior software, which is incredible. Same developers that develop Netflix. I'm still a coach inside of Warrior. I'm actually one of the guys that teaches the other certified coaches and trainers inside of that game. So if you're a guy that really just needs to get out of your own way, feels lost, disconnected, then you can just go to wakeupwarrior.com to check out an opportunity to get inside of Warrior Week, the event that really helped shift me. I've been through it twice now as a student. I just went back to a couple weeks ago because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if I'm going to teach guys to go through it, then I have to continually put myself in a place where I'm a student. Outside of that, I just launched, at the end of this week, we're launching a new podcast called the Eloquent Savage Podcast, and this is like a passion project for me. And the idea behind it is we're going to provide martial arts training, specifically jiu-jitsu training for less unfortunate or less fortunate children in the United States. And I'm connected with a lot of companies right now, like Roots of Fight, Scramble, Armbar Soap Company, and we're going to make this happen inside of the game where I'll be doing a 5-to-1 ratio where I'll do 5 podcasts where it's just me. It's just me ranting and raving and talking and sharing my ideas, outlooks, insights, and then there's going to be an interview, right? And my interviews will be with guys in the MMA and BJJ community, business, comedians, scientists, and really excited about that project. So that will go live soon. That's eloquentsavage.com. And I realized that I dropped a lot of wisdom on you guys today. I want to make sure that you realize that this is based in wisdom and not knowledge or information. Anything that I talk about is stuff that I've actually done because there's number one rule inside of the way that I operate is I will never, and I cannot teach anything that I have not done myself. So at the end of the day, I will never share things that I haven't done because that makes no sense and it's living outside of integrity. At the end of the day, you can save a lot of bandwidth and energy by just living inside of your truth. Amir, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me on. It was an absolute blast.
Dude, thank you so much. Can't tell you how much I appreciate this. Guys, we are done. Another great episode. Listen then next week. Give us a review on iTunes and share the podcast. Thanks again.